Hello and welcome to ThePrint. I'm Zoya, and this week in our Great Speeches series, we explore a speech from Jyotirao Phule to mark the Dalit History Month. In 1882, Pulle, a revolutionary reformer from Maharashtra, stood before the British Hunter Commission to demand education for all, not just the elite. His deposition exposed a system that favored Brahmins and left the masses in ignorance. Why revisit this speech now? This month, a biographical film about Phule and his wife Savitribai has sparked controversy, with Brahmin groups objecting to its portrayal of caste, reviving debates about his radical ideas. In 1882, colonial India was stratified by caste and class. The British government's Hunter Commission was reviewing education, but access was limited. Brahmins and higher classes dominated schools and offices, while Shudras, peasants and labourers, were taxed heavily yet denied learning. Jyotirao Phule, who, with the help of his wife Savitribai, had founded schools for girls and lower castes in Pune, saw this as a grave injustice. His deposition to the commission was a fiery plea to prioritize mass education over elite privilege. Let's hear his words. Perhaps a part of the blame in bringing matters to this crisis may be justly laid to the credit of the government. Whatever may have been their motives in providing ampler funds and greater facilities for higher education and neglecting that of the masses, it will be acknowledged by all that this injustice to the latter is not as it should be. End quote. Pulle argued that the government's focus on elite education was unfair as it was funded by the labour of poor youths, farmers who gained nothing from it. He questioned the British hope that educating the upper castes would result in a high moral standard and increased affection for the British government. That the government should expend profusely a large portion of revenue on the education of the higher classes is anything but just or equitable. Their object in patronizing this actual high-class education appears to be to prepare scholars who, it is thought, would in time wend learning without money and without price. End quote. Pulle challenged the idea that elite education would trickle down. He saw educated higher classes hoarding knowledge, not sharing it. We ask the friends of Indian universities to favour us with a single example of the truth of their theory. They have educated many children of wealthy men and have been the means of advancing very materially the worldly prospects of some of their pupils. But what contribution have these made to the great work of regenerating their fellowmen? End quote. His criticism was sharp. Elite education, he argued, served aristocracy, not the nation's progress. Have they in any way shown themselves anxious to advance the general interests and repay the philanthropy with patriotism? Upon what ground is it asserted that the best way to advance the moral and intellectual welfare of the people is to raise the standard of instruction among the higher classes? End quote. Pulle highlighted the Brahmin stranglehold on jobs enabled by their education access and urged the government to break this monopoly. One of the most glaring tendencies of the government system of high-class education has been the virtual monopoly of all the higher offices under them by Brahmins. If the welfare of the Ryot is at heart, it is the duty of the government to check a host of abuses. It behoves them to narrow this monopoly day by day so as to allow a sprinkling of the other castes to get into the public service. End quote. He proposed a simple fix: shift funds to mass education, creating opportunities for Shudras and others to rise. Perhaps some might be inclined to say that it is not feasible in the present state of education. Our only reply is that if the government looks a little less after higher education, which is able to take care of itself, and more towards the education of the masses, there would be no difficulty in training up a body of men every way qualified and perhaps far better in morals and manners. End quote. Phule's goal was clear: awaken both Shudras and the government to the injustice of an elitist system. My object in writing the present volume is not only to tell my Shudra brethren how they have been duped by the Brahmins, but also to open the eyes of the government to that pernicious system of high-class education which has hitherto been so persistently followed. I sincerely hope that the government will soon see the error of their ways, trust less to writers or men who look through high-class spectacles. End quote. His bold demand, schools for Shudras, free from Brahmin control, reflected his belief in their potential to strengthen India. Let there be schools for the Shudras in every village. but away with all Brahmin schoolmasters. The Shudras are the life and sinews of the country, and it is to them alone and not to the Brahmins that the government must ever look to tide over their difficulties, financial as well as political. End quote. Phule's 1882 deposition didn't overhaul colonial education, but it planted seeds for India's social movements. His voice, fierce and unyielding, challenges us to build an education system that uplifts all. Thank you for joining us on Great Speeches. For more from The Print, become a subscriber at theprint.in/subscribe. I'm Zoya in Delhi. Tune in every day for more insightful stories.